Hi, welcome. We've got Brian, Duncan, and Brenda Cowlishaw. How are you guys? Welcome.
We're good. Thanks for having us.
So
Hey,
tell
thanks.
me, where are you guys? Tell me where your locations are right now.
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
And I'm in Houston, Texas.
Okay, so you're both on the same time zone, 1 hour behind us. So this is it. The Gordon Bennett's happening. How are you feeling?
We're very excited. We're very excited. This will be our first Gordon Bennett.
What flying have you done together, Brenda? You and Brian?
Oh, we've done a lot of flying together, going way back many moons ago. But yeah, let's see, we started 4 years ago flying in Germany, getting training from Willie. And I guess we did that for 3 solid years until last year when the coronavirus hit.
Well, Brian, it's the first time that we spoke together. What's happening right now with preparations? Is it every day? Is it work every day or every other day? Tell me a bit, give me an idea how you work.
It's some preparation. It's mostly about the gear. So we're getting the gear together. We're going through things that will ship to Europe, won't ship to Europe. You know, getting costs for freight. It's a lot of administrative duties right now. Yeah.
And Brenda, what about personal travel? You know, with the COVID and the vaccines, and how is it fixed? How are you? Is there preparations for that? How's the admin on that side?
Well, right now, we're just keeping an eye on what the government websites are telling us as far as travel is concerned. You know, the last time we checked in Germany, they still had restrictions, even if you're vaccinated. So we're keeping an eye on it. We still haven't actually bought our tickets yet to fly over there, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to do so soon.
Interesting times. It's proper adventure. It's big adventure. I don't think my boss has bought my ticket yet, so we're gonna have to wait and see. I've got my 2 vaccines, so I've done what I can do on that side of it. So Brian, can I ask you about, we've spoke many times before about gas balloons and hot air balloons, but people watching who don't know about the Gordon Bennett, it is the oldest air sport in the FAI. It's over 100 years old. Brian, can you tell us a little bit the difference, your elevator pitch difference between hot air balloons and gas balloons?
So I think from a pilot's perspective, I like to tell people that with hot air balloons, you know, we fly with fuel, we fly with a burner that keeps the balloon heated up, which makes it lighter than the outside air. So we're constantly putting heat or venting, or we're constantly doing things to the balloon to fly it where we want it to go. In gas ballooning, it's quite the opposite, and it's very enjoyable for a pilot, because once we get to altitude and we don't have any burner or fuel or anything like that, we're using strictly ballast. That balloon envelope is filled with hydrogen. It's about 1,000 cubic meters of hydrogen, and we take, you know, 30 to 50 sandbags with us as ballast. And of course, everything else in that basket is ballast. And we use that ballast to manage that lifting capacity, whether we're venting, you know, hydrogen maybe in, you know, the daytime because of solar warming, or in the evening time, we may be ballasting. But for us as pilots, we're kind of just cruising at a certain altitude, and we can really enjoy the flight. It's really nice. It's very addictive.
Brenda, tell me about steering and maneuverability. Once you actually know how it works, it seems quite obvious. But when I first got involved with gas balloons, I thought, well, if they want to go there, how do they get there? How do you steer? How do you go in the right direction?
So air currents are just like water currents. You know, at different levels, you'll have different speeds, different directions. It changes. So you can go up possibly and get more of a right turn, and come down and get more of a left turn. And you might speed up, and that's in the Gordon Bennett, especially, and America's Challenge too. What we want to do is distance. We want to fly as far as possible. So we want to get those speeds. We want to enter those air masses that'll take us as fast as possible, you know, farthest away from where we started. And so that's where we get those maneuverabilities, and that steerage is by adjusting our altitude.
And Brian, it's all about the intel, isn't it? Getting the information, the meteor, the weather. That team can make or break it. Who have you got?
Well, I'm hoping that we've got our star weather maker, Don Day. He happens to you know, help several of the U.S. teams. We look at this starting 2-3 weeks out from the event. We talk to him every, say, 4 to 6 hours during the flight via satellite cell phone. So we have a constant update, and it's really, we can't change the weather as we're going along. So we're getting input from him, and we're making decisions while we're flying at, say, 10,000 feet on what we're going to do over the next 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours possibly. And we try to ride the best direction, the fastest direction. And we also have to look at where's that take us and what's the weather going to be like when we get to that system. So it's very complicated. It's kind of like a symphony. It's got to all piece together.
Absolutely, it is. It's such an emotional experience as well. I mean, for everybody who's watching, I know when you're on a team and when you're competing in a sport, you're that focused on the event, and sometimes you kind of almost miss it a little bit. You miss the experience a little bit. It's like Neil Armstrong always says, the whole world celebrated man on the moon, and he missed it. He wasn't there for the celebration. So when I was commentating my first one, the launch, the national anthem starts, and all these people are cheering, and it starts to lift away. Wow, it's really an emotional experience. Brenda, how are you preparing for that?
Oh man, especially as the new kids on the block. We're definitely the newest team that I'm aware of anyway, and it's from the US for sure. And that's going to be very emotional. It was an emotional event flying in America's Challenge a couple of years ago to qualify for the Gordon Bennett. So flying in the Gordon Bennett, this is it. It won't get any better than this. We're really excited.
Brilliant. I always wonder about the teams when you have to know each other inside out. I wonder if there's any fights. I wonder if people get into fights at any point, because you're never going to know on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no
I think Brenda and I gel really well. I can't see us fighting. I just let her win.
Well, we've made agreements in advance, certain things we've decided in advance, if somebody says that's it, I'm done, I'm ready to land, let's just finish this, that we've agreed that we'll do that, and so there's certain agreements that we've already made in advance that we don't have to worry about, a lot. I can't imagine getting into a fight with Brian. I suppose it's possible, but it would be over something stupid, probably nothing serious, if that ever happened.
The safety aspect, let's just talk about that a little bit. You try to go as far as possible. It's a many months and years in the planning. You can find yourself in a situation where you think, okay, we can be safe, we can land now, or we can push on. And I suppose it's like a lot of air sports. It's the experience and the knowledge. You've got to make the right choices, eh?
Yeah, and I think we're in the infant stages of our gas career. And I think right now we're going to learn. We're still in learning mode. Yeah. We went to Germany 3 years in a row. We had well over 100 hours of training together as a team with various pilots. And I think we're still learning a lot, and we're going to go for what we're comfortable with. And we set goals, and we want to place a certain, in the list. And we have people that we say, well, we'd like to be in front of them. We start with small goals, and that seems to work really well.
Yeah. Somebody tell me about the shipping. How does that physically, you're going to make a call, tell somebody you want to get this thing across the Atlantic. I suppose the shipping companies know what they're doing. It's
quite an organized event to deal with the freight forwarder. And actually, from what I'm seeing with all the research we've done and those kind of things, the going and flying the event's going to be the easiest thing I think that we may do, because of all the coordination of packing the system, getting it safe for transport. It has to go via air. So there's all sorts of regulations on sending our batteries and these kind of things we have to find out. So we also have to go over and meet the system somewhere in Europe. And then we would have to unpack it, put it in a vehicle, rent a vehicle, like a Sprinter or something like a van, or a trailer in a van, those kind of things. So all this stuff is a coordinated effort to make it there safely and to get through the event and then get all the equipment back safely as well. It's a lot of work. It really is. And this year, because things are still a little iffy, we have to do everything kind of at the last minute, which makes it a little worse, but it's still very exciting.
Yeah. And do you look after that yourselves between you, or do you have a team working with you?
Yeah. No, we as of right now, you know, Brenda and I handle everything, and we just divvy up the tasks, and we have calls, and we have calls with some of the other pilots that are here in the US, and we get advice, and we see what they're doing, and if we can do the same things, we can be doing the same. Maybe we can all meet in one place to get our balloons, and it you know, safety in numbers, so to speak.
Yeah. I want to ask each of you in turn. We'll start with you, Brian. What's been your most memorable experience of flying with Brenda? What particular flight comes to mind, first of all?
I think it's got to be flying across the English Channel. We got to, it was I forget about the pandemic. I guess it was 3 years ago, wasn't it, Brenda? So we actually got to take off in Gladbeck and fly straight to the west for about almost 9 hours overnight. So we took off at 11 p.m. in Gladbeck and landed at 8 or 9 in the morning. And that going across the water, that was our first open water really event. And we were very low. We were only a couple of thousand feet off the water, and watching all the ships, and then watching that English coastline come up. And that was my first visit to England. So I got to go to England in a gas balloon and land in Ipswich, England, you know, in a gas balloon out in these beautiful open fields. And it was just, it was very magical. It was very magical.
What happens then with immigration and customs? Does any of that happen, or is it kind of waived because you're a gas balloon?
You know, that's kind of a funny story, because so we did fine coming out of England, and so we had to drive down to Dover, and then you go get on the ferry from Dover to Calais, and then when we got back home, so it was about a 24-hour total trip for the adventure. We launched at 11 p.m. and we got home or back to Gladbeck Balloon Camp at about 1 a.m., you know, 24 hours later, so to speak. So, and then we flew a couple of times, and then we left, let's say 3 days later. Well, when Brenda and I were in line for customs to go through the gate to get in, they kind of stopped us and questioned why we didn't have an exit visa a stamp out of Europe. And I said, well, that's kind of a funny story. And I explained to them that I said, well, I flew in a gas balloon over to England. We came back through, here's the stamp, these kind of things. And I've got plenty of pictures. And I said, and the lady right behind me has the exact same story. So he stamped it, and he said he'd never heard that one before, and to have a good day.
Brenda, it's hard to beat that story. Come on, what have you got for me?
Oh, I'd say other than that one, definitely flying in America's Challenge. That was just so incredibly, I don't know, the whole flight was just a learning experience. And it was, you know, it was the very first time Brian and I had flown alone, just the two of us without an instructor. Up to that point, we'd always had an instructor. So that really made it surreal and exciting. It was beautiful. You know, got to fly through 2 whole nights and made it all the way up to Minnesota, and really did well. You know, we met all of our goals and objectives that we had. And so I really felt like we just learned a lot and just really had a good time. It was just so peaceful. It was just an incredible flight. Definitely that one will go down in my memory forever, for sure.
Wow, what a brilliant story. Guys, as a team, you must have some support. You must have a lot of people in the background, or I don't know, maybe companies and sponsors. Is there anybody you want to mention while you've got an opportunity?
I'd like to mention Phil Bryant, who has competed in both America's Challenge and several of the Gordon Bennetts. He's been our kind of mentor for years and years and years, and he's very special to us. There's also our another crew chief type individual named Kirk Zickler that helps us out quite a bit. He's helped us out with a flight out of Albuquerque and launching out of America's Challenge stuff. And those two people, plus our family and our friends, you know, if we couldn't do it without their support.
Brenda, anybody?
Yeah, for sure. And Peter and Barbara too, Cuneo out of Albuquerque, they've been really helpful. You know, any knowledge that they have, they're willing to share. You know, we're trying to ship our systems over together just to save a little bit of money, those kinds of things. The fact that they're so willing to help us has just been incredibly helpful to us. And we're really grateful for that, along with everybody that Brian mentioned as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Brenda, Brian, it's been great chatting with you over in Texas. I'll probably see you in Poland, hopefully, fingers crossed, and we'll all be there together. And I look forward to it. You take care. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
having us.